Okay, so we have done this much since yesterday. So as I said that we will be adding a little bit of squash and stretch in the first shot. Okay. And also I will be increasing the time here, like the ball stops, but then suddenly we switch to the next scene. So I will just add a little bit of a pause here and then we will add the squash and stretch. So now, like once you have done animation like this, and if you want to make any changes, it can be difficult. Okay. Because if you just change the timing of the camera, the ball will still continue to animate, right? So that timing will not have changed. So when you decide to change the camera animation timing, you have to change the timing for the basketball as well, or whatever character you're working with. So I have the camera selected. I will shift select all the controllers. So now I have everything selected. And what I'll do is I will shift all these keyframes. Now, before you start doing this, you need to make sure to see from which frame you want to shift. So you can see 31st is our last frame for this angle. We change it from 32. So if I want to expand this timing in between, you can see from 25 to 30, 31. I want this to be a little bit longer. So I will have to add more frames in between. So when we change, like when we shift the keyframes, we will be doing it from 31. Okay, so I have the camera selected. I'll shift select the controllers and I will come here in the time slider, press shift, left mouse button and drag to select all the keyframes. If you don't do that, if you only select this and move it, then definitely the timing for this particular shot will or this particular angle will increase. But the rest of them will decrease, right? Because I'm not changing that, I'm just changing this part. So if I want to adjust the timing for the full animation, I must do it for all the keys after that particular frame. So from 31st, I will press shift left mouse button and drag to take the selection. And now you can see we have a longer selection. So we have these little arrows visible. Usually when we select one keyframe, arrows are visible, but we don't notice them because they are like overlapping. But now that we have a wider selection, we can see these little arrows. So don't play with the outer arrows right now. Okay, I will explain what they do later on because if I explain it right now, I'm sure many of you will start using it and that will cause some problems. Okay, because we use those arrows basically to increase the spacing in between all the keyframes. Okay, so just don't use that. If you want to slide your keys, you do it from by selecting this middle arrow. Okay, you can just select it and you can move it. Now you can see previously my keyframes were starting from 31st, right? I have this whole selection. I'm going to move it and put it here. So now the key which was on 31 is now at 36. So basically I've added 5 extra frames. So if I hit play, you can see there's a little bit of a pause and then we switch. Okay. So that's all that I wanted to do. Is this clear? Like how we shifted the keyframes and everything? Any confusions in that? Okay, all right. Okay, so now that I'm done with the camera, I want to focus on the ball. So a good habit is always to just lock the full thing. So I will be locking it. Okay, someone wants an explanation again. Okay, I'll do it again. Let me undo this. Please pay attention. So see, look at this. This is our last frame at frame number 31. So now what is happening? The ball stops the movement here from 25 to 30, like it is just slightly moving. Okay. So right now the timing seemed a little bit faster. I want to give it few more frames to hold that particular angle. Okay. Before changing the angle. So what I want to do is I want to shift the keyframe. If I shift the keyframe, I will actually increase the timing in between, right? Because if I'm shifting it towards the right, I'm taking it to a higher number. Therefore, I'm ending up adding extra frames in between. Okay. So what we need to do is when we want to change something in between of an animation, we need to select the camera. We need to select our controllers. Now that everything is selected, you can see like when camera was selected, less number of keyframes were visible. But when I selected the controllers, everything like the keys for the controllers are also visible. Okay. Again, the selection will be from the same point, frame number 31, because this is the last frame for this angle. So I will press shift, left mouse button and drag, and I will select the center arrows and I will shift. Okay. So now you can see the frame which was at 31 is now at frame number 36. That means I have added 5 extra frames in between and rest of the animation was not affected. Okay. Is it clear now, Saidul? Is it clear? Okay. All right. Okay. So now that we're done with that, I want to like go back to the ball and add squash and stretch as I mentioned yesterday. So before I do that, I want to make sure that the camera doesn't move accidentally. So again, we are in the camera view here in the right side. I will just go here and click on the lock. So it won't be animated unnecessarily. All right. Now let's get to the ball. So you can see the ball basically uh, stops at 20 and then it just, dampens a little bit. So this is where we will be adding the squash and stretch. So basically, till here, I won't be adding anything like frame number 16. There won't be any squash and stretch here. But at frame number 20, what I'll do is I will be squashing it down. Why? Because the ball is rotating forward and we're making it come to a halt, isn't it? Like it is about to stop. So, and it is also rolling downward or forward. Sorry, it is rotating forward and kind of downward also if we look at it from this axis, right? The forward rotation is also kind of a downward rotation. So that's why I will be squashing it here. And then when it rolls back, since it's going backward, therefore it's going upward, I will be stretching it at that point. And then when I move it forward again, I will be squashing it again. So I'm just explaining what I will be doing. I'm not doing it right now. So see it again. See, when the ball is rotating forward, it is also rotating downward, right? This is how we have rotated it. Okay. Therefore, when the ball is rotating forward, it will also be slightly squashed because it is coming to a halt. Okay, so I will make it slightly squashed here. And then when it goes backward, it is again going upwards a little bit. So I want to stretch it out. See, I'm following the same logic that we did for squash and stretch. When something is down, it's coming downwards, and it is at the time of impact, it is always squashed. When it goes back up, it is always stretched, right? So just following the same logic here, but I will be doing it in a very subtle way. Okay. Sudhakar, you've written sorry. What happened? You have something to say? Any confusion? Oh, okay. No, no, you don't have to apologize for that. It's okay. All right. So, has everyone understood the concept that I was talking about? Like where I will be squashing it and stretching it and what logic I'm using? Is that all clear? I will do it. It will become even more clear, but I want to know, is everyone able to understand the main logic that I'm following for the squash and stretch? Okay, good. It's important that you all understand because later on, whenever you're doing any different types of animation, you can follow this. Okay. All right. So basically, the ball's forward movement actually stops at 20, right? Then it just goes backward and forward for the dampening. So it stops at 20. So this is our top controller, right? So what I'll do here is I want to squash it at 20. Now, if I do it right now, obviously the ball's shape will change, right? You can see it will look like a weird object and not a proper ball. So I want it to remain round before we actually squash it. So I will go forward a few frames, just 3, 4 frames you need to go forward. I think 16 is a good place. So we have a gapping of 4 frames. Okay. So I will be putting a stopping key. Okay. That means if I press S here, from 0 to 16, there's no change happening. The ball is maintaining its form. Now at frame number 20, when the ball is moved forward and downward, this is where I will be squashing it. Okay. So you can see the ball is squashing. You can see it here in the camera view as well. If I delete this, you can see the difference. It is squashing. Okay. Then when ball is going back again, I will stretch it out. You can see I'm moving it up, stretching it out. Then when it is going forward again and downward, I am squashing it again. And then one last time, I will stretch it out. So if we hit play right now, see, can you see the squishiness of the ball? Like if we see just 36 frames, it will be even more visible. See, see the squishiness? Openraj, this is an exaggeration that we're doing. Okay. I explained this yesterday also. A ball doesn't just naturally moves forward on its own, right? Because it's not a real person, right? It's not a character. It is not capable of moving on its own. So we are adding uh, things here which will show that this character is alive, that this ball is alive. So what happens in reality when we try to stop ourselves? We move backward and forward, right? And our body also goes up and down. That can be considered a squash and stretch when we are exaggerating it in animation. So that's exactly we are doing it. Yes, you can also say we are enhancing dampening, okay? By increasing the like by adjusting the squash and stretch, we are enhancing the dampening. So basically, it's a form of exaggeration. Okay, this type of thing happens always in animations. Whenever you notice animation, see right now you're getting to know all of these terms. So now when you'll start watching any animated movies, you will actually notice what is happening with the character. All right. This is what makes characters come alive, especially for characters like this. Like, I mean, it's just a ball, it doesn't even have a face, but we're trying to fill life into it. Okay. All right. So you can see we've added the squash and stretch into this. So now it's all fine, but it will look even more better if we delay this. So delay is also a very important thing in animation. You can also consider this as a follow through. Like basically, this is a follow through principle of animation. Okay. I uh, I usually when I talk about it, I say delay because it's easier to understand. So basically, when you try to stop yourself, okay, you're moving, let's say you're running, okay, when you try to stop yourself, your body, your pelvis area, your chest, basically the pelvis is the one which stops first after the legs. But your chest, your neck, and your head, they continue to move just for few milliseconds. Okay, there's always a delay. Now, if you're running in a really, really high speed and then you come to a halt, then you will see that your body will continue moving back and forth, the upper parts of your body. Okay, because the head, the neck, and the chest, they are not uh, the part of the pelvis area. The pelvis area is very solid. Okay, so that it stops, but the rest of the body continues to move. But if you're running at a really high speed, your pelvis will also keep on going back and forth. So basically, dampening will happen. So this delay or this follow through action is basically a type of dampening which keeps on happening. You can think of it in this way. I mean, for girls, this is something which is very noticeable. When we're walking, like if a girl has long hair, you will see uh, if the body goes up, the hair goes in the opposite direction. If the body goes down, the hair goes again in the opposite direction. If the body is down, the hair goes up. If the body is up, the hair goes down. So there's always a delay. The hair tries to follow the head's movement, but it is not able to do so at the same amount of time because the hair is lighter in weight. Okay, so mostly follow through action happens in parts of bodies which are basically extensions. Okay, now I am giving you a very basic example of this. It doesn't mean that it always happens with extended things that we are, having on our body, accessories or something like that. You can also consider Superman's cape, right? When he is going down, the cape goes up, even though the body is coming down. But because of the air drag and everything, the cape actually flies upwards. Okay, so there's always a delay that happens. So the cape is obviously following the body's position, but it does so with a little bit of delay because it is lighter in weight. Okay, same thing happens with our own body parts. As I mentioned, that if you're running, you will come to a halt, your pelvis will stop, but your head, neck, and everything will continue moving just a few moments after you've stopped. So, what my point here is, we have added the dampening and everything. We've added the squash and stretch to this, but I want the squash and stretch to be slightly delayed. Okay, very slightly delayed. So I will be basically adding one frame extra to all of this. How will I do that? I've already done the animation, but because we can move the keyframes, this is very easy to do so. See, when the ball came to a halt, this is where we squashed it. Then the ball moved backward, so we stretched it, and this is how we've done the full animation, right? So what I'll do here is I have the full keyframes here that are doing what I want them to do. But I want them to be delayed. That means I want to increase 1 or 2 frames extra for the time it is taking for them to happen. So what I'll do is I will press shift, select all of them, and I will move them just by 1 frame. So you can see the frame which was at 16 is now at 17. The one which was at 20 is now at 21. So basically all the keyframes have been shifted by one frame. Now, if we look at the main body's movement, you can see it is obviously still there at the exact frame where it was, but the squash and stretch has been delayed. Okay. So now if I hit play, you can see this looks even more exaggerated. Okay. So this is why, like when we add delay, there is now a disconnect between the main body's movement and the follow through which is happening. Okay. So we are able to see the movement that we've added separately even more clearly. All right. This is why we add delays. This is not a really important thing to do here, but if you do that, there is you get more depth in the movements that you're adding. Okay. So it's always a good idea to do so. All right. Now, one more thing. You can see if I select this main controller of the body, it came to a stop at 29. And that's when I stopped the squash and stretch as well. Now, as I said that I wanted there to be a delay, so I can actually continue and add just one more squash and stretch. Now, obviously, it depends whether my previous frame was squashed or was it stretched. So let's see what happened. Initially, here we have the stopping key at 17. At 21, we have a squash. At 24, it is stretched. At 27, it is squashed again. At 30, it is stretched. So at 33, I will very slightly squash it. You can see negligible amount of movement. See, very little amount of movement I've added. So you can see it continues to move like this. Okay. Now, if the squash and stretch seems to be excessive to you because it tends to happen when we're doing it in the viewport because we're trying to move it in a subtle way. So it's possible that when you do it, it might look a little bit excessive. So what you can do, you can just go to the graph editor and just adjust according to what you want. So you can see these are the keyframes. So if you feel like the movement that you've added, like initial one is actually fine, but let's say I want to like lower the amount of movement. This squash was fine, but the stretch that I added, I want it to be less intense. I can just move it here with the graph editor. And since I've reduced this one so much, I will have to edit the rest of them. So now you can see we're getting this cone-like shape. So that wave pattern which slowly dies down. Okay. So now if I hit play, you can see it is a little bit less intense. Okay. So now you can keep adjusting the timing and everything and experiment a little bit. Okay. Is this clear to everyone? The concept of follow through slash delay and the way I'm shifting the keyframes. Is everyone able to understand this? Okay, good. All right. So now that we're done with this shot, let's just expand everything back. So this is our first angle, second angle, third angle, and now we're about to enter this one. So now the thing is, uh, let me hit play once more. Okay, this is actually fine because I want this shot to be fast paced only. But let's say when you are working on your animation, you want to give some extra time before your angle changes. So what you can do is you can just select the camera. Okay. Make sure to unlock it before changing the keyframes. If you keep it locked and try to change it, you can see all the keyframes are not properly visible. See, when it is locked, only one keyframe is visible. When you unlock it, all the proper keys are visible. So always unlock it. Okay. So anyway, let's say that you want to increase this timing here. Then what you can do is make sure just select the camera, select your keyframes and then move it. Now you must be thinking, why didn't I select the ball controllers? Because I haven't animated it after this. Okay, we just did a camera change, camera angle change, and we didn't animate it. So therefore, I'm only selecting the camera. And let's say I want to give more time here. I will select these two last keyframes and I will move them. Why am I moving both of them together? Because if I just move one, then this one will move. See, let me actually show you what will happen. This is our last keyframe, right? I just select this one and I move it. See what is happening? Look at this. So I'm not, that's not a problem. Using multiple cameras is the right way of doing it in terms of studio. I explained why we are not using multiple cameras. If you've used multiple cameras, it is okay. Only thing is that it will be difficult for you to see them together. You'll have to like uh, go to a video editing software and get them one by one and then see them together. So that's the only problem. Yeah, so as I mentioned, you can see this was a keyframe, right? And the second one is this one, which is a third person view. So what will happen if I just move one? See, like now what is happening, because I'm removed that obstruction key, which is this one, we are now directly going from this to this. So you can see that it is animating like this. This looks so weird, right? That's why it's important to move both of them together. So I'm selecting both of them and I'll just move them forward. So now if I hit play, you can see I've just given more time here. I've got 5 extra frames. Previously it was ending at 75. Now it is ending at 80. Okay. So just like that, you can increase or decrease the timing that you're adding. Okay. I will lock the camera again. Now we won't be worrying about the camera because we will go back here and we will add squash and stretch to this as well. Okay. Now that's up to you whether you want to add it or not. But if you do, you will be learning a lot. So definitely try and match with what I'm doing because it will really help you to learn. A ghosting option is there. Like you have to go into the animation section, visualize, and then you find the ghosting option. Okay. All right. So as I said that I want to animate this section as well. So what is happening here? the ball first goes down like this, right? It is going downwards. So I will be squashing it here because the ball is looking down. Then when it is going back up, it is actually looking upwards. So I will stretch it out at that point. So that's the kind of stuff I want to add. So let's start. So what is happening here? The ball rotates from 56 to 59 downwards, right? This is the controller we have at the top. We already have a stopping key here at 56. So I'll just go to 59 and I will squash it down. So you can see the ball squashes downwards, and then when the ball rotates up, I will stretch it out. So squash, then stretch. Okay. And then after that, I'll just add a little bit of dampening. That means here it was squashed, here it was stretched. I'll go ahead and keep on adding squash and stretch after this. So squash, stretch, squash, and stretch again. So just added two extra keyframes. So again, no movement here. At 59, it squashes. At 65, it stretches. At 68, it squashes again. And then at 71, it goes back to its original form, which is round. Like almost it is there, not completely rounded, but it's close to that point. So it's looking like a ball only. So if I hit play, you can see, look at this, look at that action. Okay. So now I feel like the squash and stretch is maybe a little too much. I want to slightly decrease the intensity. So I'll again use the graph editor. So here the ball was not moving at 56. I squashed it here. I feel like the stretch is maybe too much. So I will reduce this by moving it up. So definitely the ball is still stretching out, but not so much. Then when it is squashing, again it is doing too much. So I will bring it down. So now after the stretch, it squashes, but very little, and then it goes back. So if I hit play now, see, this looks much better to me. Again, you can add the delay in this as well. You have to do the same thing. Select all your keys and move them by one. So now, whatever was at 56 is at 57, whatever was at 59 is at 60. So if I hit play, you can see. Okay. Yes, Sudhakar, you can use the scale value as well. But you can control it better if you do it manually. Scale value is used when you want to, uh, lower down all the values at the same amount. Okay. So don't use that. Just do it by sliding it so that you can actually control it. So now you can see how nice it looks. It looks even more alive, even though the ball literally doesn't even have a face. But we're considering it as a character. Okay. All right. So I want to add a stopping key at frame number 80. So I will select all the keyframe and key it. Why frame number 80? Because at 81, we're at a different angle. That's why. Okay. Now what we'll do here is, now that we're in third person perspective, I want to rotate the ball forward. Okay. Because I want the ball to gear up for the bounces. Okay. So it will first rotate forward, come to a stop. Then what it will do, like basically I will start squashing it downwards, and then I will make it bounce a little bit higher. Then the next bounce will be even more higher, and in the third bounce the ball will hit the basketball hoop. Okay, so that's what we'll do. So now that we're in this view, let's select our uh, our controller, and I want to start moving the ball forward. So I will do it here in this camera view so that it's visible to us. So I'll just move forward a few frames. I won't instantly do that because let me show you what will happen. Right after changing the angle, if I move the ball forward, you will see it will be very difficult to follow. Like instantly I'm moving the ball, right? So once we change the camera angle, first we need to give a pause to the full movement and not do anything there for a few frames. And then we add our movement. Okay. So basically, I added a stopping key at 80. We need to actually add another one. So I will be adding one again at 85. So I've given like 4 or 5 frames over here. So now you can see no movement till 85. Okay. Maybe I can give one extra frame. So till here, the ball is not moving at all. Now what I'll do, I'll take our main controller, move forward few frames, like it should be around 10 or 12 frames, and then we will move the ball forward. So if I hit play, you can see, look at this. The ball doesn't just suddenly start moving, there is a pause and then the ball moves forward. Okay. And of course, we will be controlling its speed. Also, I don't want it to move so much. Like I think I moved it a little too much. So I'll move it back a little bit and then I'll hit play. So now you can see that looks much better and I have only translated it. Of course, we need to rotate the ball. So let's rotate it. So I'll do one full rotation in the Z axis. So you can see the ball rotates and we haven't adjusted the speed as well. So that is also something we will do. Let's go to the graph editor. Actually, before I do that, I want to add a little bit of dampening here because again, we don't want to abruptly stop the ball. So this will be a short dampening. Like here, I added quite a lot. Over here, I will just add 2 extra frames. That's it. Not too much. Okay. So the ball here is moving forward and rotating forward as well. Now I'll go forward 4 or 3 or 4 frames and move it slightly back. So now you can see it moves back and I'll also rotate it back. You can see I'm doing both of these things together. So it is forward till here, then it moves back and rotates backward. Then I will add one more when I'll move the board forward again, very little, and rotate the ball forward as well. So you can see just very small movement. Okay. Trying to keep it very less. Just a little amount of movement. That's it. Now we will adjust the speed. So again, we are making the ball stop. But there's one more thing. You can see initially the ball is not moving, right? It is to a stop. So it is starting from rest over here. So you cannot just go directly to your curves, go to the translate X, go to your curve, and you cannot just directly make this steep. Why? Because the ball is actually starting from rest, right? It is starting from rest. So if I instantly make it faster, it will look unnatural. Okay. I want there to be a slow in and slow out. This is again a principle of animation. So things when they're moving normally, they don't just suddenly start from a high point and then come to a halt completely. They start slowly, gain action, then halt. Okay. So what we have here works for us, but I want to slightly adjust it. So initially, when the ball is moving, I want to slow the speed down a little bit more. So what I'll do here is we already have it flat because that's the natural shape that we get in Maya for the normal span curves. But what I'll do here is I will make it a little bit flat. You can see what it does to the ball. You can actually check it out here. See, it's moving back. Why? Because I am slowing it down. Therefore, it is actually moving backwards. Therefore, it is covering less distance and that's why it is slowing down. Okay, so this is our slow in. Yes, we also call it as ease in and ease out. Then we have this last movement. Again, I want to I want to make it slow down a little bit earlier, so I will flatten it from here as well. So basically, I just exaggerated the same shape. So it results in a motion like this, where initially it is slow and then it becomes fast. Okay, slow, then it is fast, and then it is slow again. That's it. And then we have a little bit of dampening. We won't be adding any squash and stretch into this. We'll keep it simple. Okay. Now I will select everything and I will press S to lock it at 102. So you can see now we have a key in all the controllers. All right. Now again, I will give a pause before making the ball anticipate. Okay. Anticipation is again a principle of animation. We have talked about it before, but we will be adding it quite a lot in this. See, when you are gearing up to jump, you pull your body downward and then you do the jump, right? You pull yourselves backward, downward, and then you do the jump. So you gear up your body, you prepare your body for the big movement, right? That's exactly what we'll be doing with our basketball. Okay. So before I add the anticipation, I want to add pause. So I will go ahead and give it around 10 frames and I will press S. So now you can see after the dampening here, the ball is not moving for around 10 frames. Okay. It just doesn't move for a few frames. I think I will give more of a pause. This is small. Like this is not enough. So I will take this last keyframe and I'll move it. Okay, now I think this is a good amount of pause. Okay. Now after this, I'll start anticipating the jump. So I'll move ahead around 4 frames and I'll squash the body. I will squash it quite a lot because I'm showing that the body of our basketball is trying to anticipate its bounce. So I'm squashing it down quite a bit. Again, I will select everything and I'll hit S to lock it all. Okay, so we have a key in all the controllers at 119. So you can see anticipation is happening over here. Now you can see this is a little too fast. We are trying to build up the moment right before the jump. It should take more time for this squash to happen, right? So that it can actually pent up that amount of energy in order to do the jump. Because nobody is controlling the ball. The ball is basically moving on its own, right? So we want to prepare its body before it can do that. So I've already added the keys at 119, but I want to extend the timing here. So that means I will be changing the keyframe. So I'll select all the controllers, grab this keyframe, and I'll move it ahead. So now you can see I've given more space here. So if I hit play, you can see there is a good amount of time that this ball is taking to squash down. Okay. We can also adjust the timing of, the spacing of what is happening in between. That means you can keep it faster in the beginning and then it can slow down towards the end because that's exactly how it happens, right? Right before we are about to bounce or run or do any quick action, we slow our body down. Okay. So I want the squash to be faster in the beginning and then it should slow down at 123. So we can do that. We can go to the curves. We can go to translate Y, select these last two keyframes. Okay. And I will press F. Sometimes it's difficult. Like if you're selecting both of them, sometimes it will not flatten. So you can select one of them and press F. Then you get a more broader look of your curve. I will select both of them and I will break the tangent. So as I said, I want most of the movement to happen a little bit faster. So I'll make it steep. I will not make it steep like this because this will be too fast. Okay, but it should be a little bit faster. So I'll make it steep like this. And then towards the end, I want this to be a little bit more flat. So it is going to take a good amount of time. You can see, initially it's fast and then it is slower. Look at the spacing. See how quickly it is moving initially and then the movement is slow. Look at this. You can see the speed difference. See, faster in the beginning, slower at the end. Okay, so definitely add that. Oh, all right, so we have added the anticipation. Now, now we want to make it jump. Okay, so what I'll do here is right before I make it jump, I will go to the next frame after this squash. So the squash happened at 123. I'll go to 124 and I will zero it out so that we're back to the round position. Why did I do that? Because I want to make the ball bounce. So that's why I'm just returning it back to its default shape. Okay. Now I'll take the controller. Okay. This was our last key at 123. I'll go forward around 10 frames and yes, around 10 frames I'm going forward. You can see this was at 123. So I'll go around 131. So maybe 9 frames and I'll move it up. So I'm not giving it too much of a height for the first bounce. Okay. Because what I want to show here is that with each bounce, the ball basically gains energy. Okay. So this is the first bounce. And then of course the ball needs to drop. So it drops. And obviously we need to adjust the speed. But before that, let's also add the rotation. So I'll add the rotation here, one full rotation like this. So the ball rotates like this. Okay. Now let's adjust the curve. Again, same thing is happening, right? The ball, like it should be faster initially, slower at the top, and then fast again at the bottom. Okay. So again, I will select these base and I will break the tangents and I will make it steep. We'll do the same thing for this side as well. And at the top, I want this to be slower, so I will flatten the curve. So if I hit play now, you can see, okay. Now, if you feel like the timing is faster, you can definitely go ahead and add more frames. So I feel like the timing is a little too fast, so I want to add more frames. I'm not going to change the one at 123. What I'll do here is I will change the highest point first, which is at 131. I'm shifting it to 132. And the landing one also I'm shifting. So now you can see this is much better, not too fast. Okay. Now that we have done it, what do you think is missing in this? Can anybody tell me? Squash and stretch. Exactly. Okay. Let's do that. So here we added the squash, right? Right after that frame, we want to stretch it out. I'm not going to be using the top controller for this because the stretch should happen in the area which is closer to the ground, which is the lower part. So I will be stretching this out. So you can see squash, stretch, then at 125, it should bounce back to its original shape, which is round. So you can see squash, stretch, and then it is back to its round shape. Then when it is coming down on the ground, at frame number 140, I will press S to lock the value. And this is our impact frame at 141. This is where I will squash it. Okay. So it is squashing over here. And then I want to make it bounce back at 142. So making it round again. So I've added the squash, but again, the stretch is missing in this. So at 141, I'll press S to lock this position. I know that I want to stretch it at 140, but first I'll add a key again at 139 so that it remains round. Then at 140, I stretch it out. So what is happening? It's round here, stretched out here, squashed over here. and I'll select the top controller just to check that it is going back. You can see it is now bouncing back. I will not make it stretch again because I will give pauses in between the bounces. Okay. This was our first bounce. So you can see it squashes and stretches and then it goes back to its normal shape. So if I hit play, this is what's happening. Okay. Now you can see it is definitely squashed here, but this bounce back is a little too fast because I will be stopping the ball here, right? So there's no point in making it so fast because I'm not continuing the bounce at this point. So what I can do here is the key that I added at 142, I can just give one extra frame in between. What will it do? It will slow this down. See? Now you can see it is going from squashed to the normal position, but now we have a transition happening. Previously, what was happening? It was squashed and instantly it was bouncing back. But now that I'm moving this keyframe, I'm giving a point of transition. So now if I hit play, you can see this is a little bit better. Okay. So like this. Now, as I said that I want to give a pause before I make it jump and do everything. So what I'll do, I'll select all the controllers and I'll move forward around 10 to 12 frames and I will press S. So now you can see I have added the pause key. So this jump happens and then there is a pause. And then after this, I want to do the squash and stretch again. So again, we want the ball to do some anticipation, right? But this time the anticipation won't be long. It will be fast only. So I will just give 2 frames. I will squash it. Okay, so you can see it is squashing and I'm selecting everything. I'm keying it. In the next frame itself, I will zero this out. So you can see squashed and then it is stretched out again. All right. So the squash and stretch is taken care of. I mean, we haven't stretched it out. I just made it bounce back to its original shape. Why do we do that? Why don't we use one single controller? The reason is we also rotate the ball, right? It's going up and down. So the part which is closer to the ground, that's the part which needs to be stretched out. So this is the top part. So I cannot use this for stretch. That's why when I squash it, I make it just bounce back to its original shape. Okay. Anyway, uh, this was our key at 157. Now I want it to do a higher bounce. Previously, this was the height at 132. Now the height should be more than this. And you can see there are around uh, 10 frames. Now I will be giving more than that. So around 15 frames, 12, 15 frames I'm giving, and I will make a higher jump. If we compare it from the one that was at 132, you can see this was the highest point. Now this is our new highest point. Okay. So you can see the ball is going like this. Now obviously it needs to come back down. So I will zero the translate Y. So it goes up and down. And because this is a higher level jump, I will be adding 2 full rotations. Okay. So you can see the ball rotates quite a bit. Okay. Now let's adjust uh, the speed or the spacing. So again, I'll go to translate Y. Just like how we adjusted the previous curve, we'll do the same thing for this one. So I'll select these lower ones and I will break their tangents. And here I want the speed to be faster, so I'll raise it up. Do the same thing on this side. And at the top, I want it to be slow, so I'll flatten it. So now you can see the change in speed. Okay. Now let's take care of the squash and stretch. So here the ball squashed. It should stretch out right after this. So I will be using this lower controller and I will stretch it out. So squash, stretch, then it should bounce back to its original shape. Okay. And nothing will happen throughout. Now at the base, we want it to be squashed. So the impact frame is 181. I'll get the top controller. I want to squash it. Okay. So basically, I'll go right like one frame before that at 180, and then at 181, I will squash it and then make it bounce back to its original shape. Okay. And then for the stretch part, impact frame is 181. So I'll put a key here. I'll put a key at 179, and at 180, I will stretch it out. So now stretch, squash, and bounce back. So if I hit play, okay, we have this. I feel like the speed here is a little too much. So I will be adjusting the keyframes for that. Okay, I've already shown how we need to change all of this. So if I want the ball to take a longer amount of time for this movement to happen, then I will be selecting the controllers and the camera. Well, good thing is we haven't animated the camera, so we don't have to worry about that. Instead, what we'll do is we'll just take all the controllers, select all the keyframes and move them. So now we have given more space in between. So now you can see the ball seems to be moving a little bit slowly, and rest of the animation is not affected. Only the point of frames have changed. Okay. All right. Okay. Is it clear till here? Any confusions? I know we've added lots of squash and stretch, lots of dampening, but this is how you make your shots look better by adding many, many layers of different movements. Okay. And obviously, that's why we start with such a simple character. Now, I hope many of you who have done animation before, you must be understanding the reason why we start with a simple ball, right? Because just imagine so many things you have to take care of, and if you start with a human character right off the bat, the results will not be good because you will have very simple movements and it will be not complex at all and it will look bad and floaty. Okay. This is the reason why we start with a simple object like a ball and we apply all the principles to it so that when we're finally working with human characters, we'll have everything we need. Okay. So this is almost over. Like now in tomorrow's class, we will be completing this fully. Okay. And then after that, we will be using we will be starting with the squirrel character. Okay. So again, we will be doing the vertical bounce for the squirrel, and then after that, horizontal bounce. Of course, it will not be exactly like a ball. It will be different. We will be adding more depth to it. Okay. All right. Okay. Many of you have shown me the first half. So I will look forward to seeing the one that we have done today. Okay. So let's continue tomorrow. Any doubts? Any questions about this? No? Yes, Upan Raj, let me check in WhatsApp. He had shared in WhatsApp. Let me check if I can find it. I didn't download it prior to this. So let me stop the recording. Class has ended, so everyone can leave if they want to.